Hi, it's Mike Stevenson here. Today in this video we're going to talk about monitoring app registrations with Serverless 360 and a little bit about a problem we had recently and how we sorted it out. So first off, let's take a minute to think about some of the use cases where we're using app registrations. So number one would be for deployments. So we've got Azure. We've got DevOps pipelines over here, and the DevOps pipeline makes a connection to Azure to do our deployment. So that could be doing like a Terraform deployment, it could be doing an ARM deployment, a Bicep deployment, and usually you'd be using a service connection, and that might be using a service principal to authenticate. So you would have a client ID and a secret to do that. One of the other cases might be we have a lot of scenarios where we might have an API on APIM, and we have maybe we've got a Power App, and that might have a call to APIM, and it's using an app reg. Again, it would have a client ID and a secret, and the authentication in APIM over here uses that app registration. Another scenario we've got is we have logic apps, and then we've got Dataverse, and the logic app uses the cloud connector here to talk to Dataverse, and that uses an app registration here to be able to connect to the Dataverse. So one of the things to be aware of in the course of our integration platform development, a lot of the security options have changed. So nowadays we tend to prefer managed identity where we can. Previously, certainly before managed identity was as commonly used, using an app registration with a client ID and secret was very common. It's still commonly used to do in scenarios where you can't use a managed identity, but you have this problem. You have a client ID, which is usually a GUID, and then you have a client secret. And if you've configured that in Azure AD, by default, it's probably going to expire after 2 years. Sometimes that might be shorter. So that secret is going to be probably in a key vault. It's going to be used by a service. It might be, things like your logic app connector up here. Your deployment might configure the connector with a secret that might expire at some point. So you need to think about how are you going to know when these expire, and what's your process going to be for updating them. So if you're thinking about where are your app registrations, so in Azure AD, you'll find them down on this left-hand menu, and this is where you would get the details for them. Now, I've kind of obfuscated some bits here, but this is where your client ID would come from, your tenant ID that app reg belongs to. And you can notice here at the top, I've got a client secret that's expired. So I know that whoever's using this app registration is probably going to be broken if they're trying to use that secret. And your secrets you would find in this menu option over here. And you can see, again, I've obfuscated a secret here, but this shows me that it's expired. The value that the app that's using the secret would have been there. Now, the good thing is on an app registration, you can have multiple secrets at the same time. So if you get into a good practice, you could create a new secret, add it here before this one expires, start rolling your applications over to use the new secret, and then get rid of this one when it's done. So that would be quite a good way of doing that. Now the question is, how do you monitor these secrets? So you've got a bunch of options available. One of the options that we added to Serverless 360 was just to make it easy to configure and manage the app registrations to be able to see that your secrets are going to expire. So over here, We have Azure Entra ID. Inside here, you've got your app reg. And in Serverless 360, you build this tree view that we're showing here, which is the structure of your application. So there's two ways you could configure your app registration. So number one, you could have a single node in this tree structure where you put all of your app registrations so you can just manage them in one place. The other option would be you could actually link the app registrations to the place that use them. So let's pretend I've got 20 app registrations. I might put one of them here, because these are the apps that use that app registration. That would help me understand the impact assessment of when this one expires, which applications are going to be affected. So we've got two ways we can model that out. Now, one of the things that you can do in Serverless 360 is you can use a monitoring profile. So I think on the previous screen, did we have this? So you can see down here, we've got this monitoring settings. So you can configure a monitor where it'll look at an app registration, and as soon as you add it to an application, using your profile, you can set up the default monitoring that you like. So here, for my app registrations, I've said alert me 30 days before they expire, and I can also configure a custom note of what I want the alert to say. So that means anytime I add an app registration to one of the apps in that tree structure that uses this profile, it'll automatically start doing this monitoring. So I won't have to go and script anything with PowerShell. I won't have to go and configure a load of stuff in Azure Monitor. You can get to your app registration being monitored in just a click, pretty much. Now, what will happen here, as you can see in my tree structure, I've just zoomed in a bit here. You can see I've got all of my app registrations being monitored in one business application. So I've got 25 app registrations here. 27. And what would happen in Serverless 360, once one of them goes to the point where it's now going to expire, or it's past the threshold that you're monitoring for, you can see here it's lit up red to say we've got a potential problem coming up. And what happens is you'll get a notification. So in this case, there's an email notification came out to tell me that an app registration is going to expire. And I've obfuscated the name of it, but that would tell me the name of which app registration it was. And I can link to the incident, which will let me click here in the email. It would jump straight to Serverless 360 and you can start seeing the problem. Now, from a notification perspective, you've got choices in Serverless 360 like email, you've got Teams messages, ServiceNow. You can do DevOps tickets, and you've got a bunch of other options, PagerDuty, etc., etc. So you can configure the right notification channels you would want for your organization. So a great one would be create a ServiceNow ticket to tell people that something needs to be done about this this issue. When I go to my issue in this app registration node on my tree view, I can click the app registrations, and this is going to list up a list of the app registrations I've got configured. Obviously, I've hidden the names a little bit again, but what you can see here is this one's showing an error, and all my other ones are kind of healthy. I think I haven't configured the monitoring for these ones yet, but this one here I can see has got a problem. I can click on that little error and it'll pop up and it'll show me. In this particular one here, I've got 3 secrets configured. That one's fine, but that one was due to expire, so I can see that I've got a problem coming up with that secret. So because at the point in time where we were looking at this, it hadn't expired yet, so nothing broke, but we got the alert because we need to do something about this issue. So I can go and start updating, adding a new secret, updating Key Vault, and start configuring applications that use that secret. So maybe it's my DevOps pipeline, or maybe it's one of my logic apps. So hopefully that video gives you a quick overview of the monitoring for app registrations in Serverless 360. Tells you a little bit about how we used it. Hopefully this video is useful, and please comment, like, subscribe. If you want to know more about this, reach out and we can tell you about how we're doing this. Thanks.